Hello and welcome everyone. So in this video we will be talking about the interview questions asked by Amazon in a Salesforce developer interview. Total experience was 3 years and we will be covering each and every question. If possible I will try to show you if it is feasible, otherwise I will explain you. Okay, but I just don't want to make it very long, so if something is feasible I'll definitely share it and code in front of you, otherwise I will just explain it to you. Those who just need questions, I'm going to put these questions in the description so that you can take it and can start practice. All right, so after the introduction, the first question was how to communicate in LWC. Okay, I call these questions as a freebie question because it's a theoretical questions. It gives you liberty to express yourself. How to communicate in LWC? You can explain first parent to child communication, child to parent communication. Then you can explain how you communicate between unrelated components. You can bring lightning message services in the picture and can explain LMS. If he is expecting you to explain more, you can further go deep and explain it more. You can also talk about pub sub module, how we used pub sub module earlier to communicate. You can also tell him about how if there are two siblings, how will they communicate from going from child to parent and then from parent to child. So it these type of questions gives you a lot of freedom to express yourself. These are the questions which they ask to make you comfortable to set the tone for the interview. Then there was a question, what is the batchable Apex? This question was intended to check your fundamentals in Apex, because batchable is basically an interface we use whenever we have to create a batch Apex class. By the batchable interface we have to implement this interface, and then we have to provide body for the start, finish and execute method. The follow-up question on this was, what is interface and why do we use interface? What is like general way when you have used interface? So interface basically provides your code a basic structure. All the classes which are implementing that interface has to provide body. So this is basically a contract between the interface and implementing class to provide the body for all those methods. When do we use interface in Apex? Whenever we build any design patterns where we want to have a proper follow-up structure, or like let's say we want to make sure that every class uses some specific pattern, or it also promotes the dynamic dispatch of methods. So let's say whenever we have multiple classes which are using that interface, with the help of interface we can dynamically decide that which classes instance we want to create. So this dynamic dispatch behavior is very important from the interface point of view. If you are learning interface or confused in the interface, I am taking the object oriented Apex course on my YouTube for members only. You can check that, and you can also connect with me if you want to know more about it. All right, after understanding the fundamentals of Apex concepts, interviewer went to ask promise and promise all. This question is intended towards your LWC as well as your JavaScript knowledge. Promise basically is an object which basically um, runs asynchronously and returns you the results. All right, it has stages, and once it is resolved, then you will get the result of it. Promise all is basically a static method which takes multiple promises as an input, as an iterator, and then iterate through all those promises. When all those promises have been resolved, when those iterable is null or there is nothing to iterate from and all those promises have been resolved, then you will get a single promise in return. All right, so that is the difference. When you are dealing with multiple promises, you can club them together and can use promise all, or if you're waiting on multiple promises for a result, then promise all can give you a single promise in return when all your promises have been resolved. So that is the basic difference. I can attach a blog about this and you can read through it. Next question is, what is decorator in LWC? Be prepared to tell all these three API, wire and track decorator, why we are still using track, what are the use cases of using track. You can also explain it promptly. SOQL query on last n months. We use this SOQL query whenever we have to find data based on last n number of months. Let's say you want to have a query on accounts created in last 90 days. So you can write it like select id from account where created date is greater or equal to last n month, and in place of n you have to put the number like last 3 months, so you'll have to put last 3. You'll have to put 3 if it is 9 months. You'll have, in place of n you'll have to replace it by the number of months you want to calculate. All right, so till now it was very easy setting up the basic concepts. Then there was a question on how will you create a cab booking system. It is very common for a company like Amazon or Google to ask you a system design question or a overall application design question. So this question was intended to solve that purpose. Cab booking system, and there were couple of cross questions. So a cab booking system can have this question took a lot of time, like around 25 minutes interviewer spent on this. And cab booking system, if you have to book, we'll have to first think about the data model. What are the different types of object we are going to have? Once we decide the object, then we think about a brief relationship we can have between those objects. And then once we get it, we can think about the different modules we will be needing on that. So if we think about, let's say, cab booking, let's go to developer console, not build anything, just write down those things. So for the cab design system, let's say I want to create a text file. Okay, just a second. We will just write down the things. And in a cab design system, what can be different objects we can have? Obviously we will have a cab object, we will have a user object, we will have a cab booking object, and this cab booking will have a relationship with cab and user objects both. We will have a discount object, we can have cancellation object as well, but maybe we will talk about that later. After See, it's not possible to build a cab design system in an interview, but you'll have to give an idea about, if you get an opportunity, what will be your initial thoughts. So make a scalable approach. Think about how it will actually work, what are the different modules you can think. So if we talk about relationships, there will be relationship between cab and cab booking, relationship between cab and cab bookings and user, because every user will book a cab. There will be a relationship between cab booking and discount. There will be a relationship between cancellation. So if cancellation is an object, or maybe not, these kind of will be basic relationships. We can think of modules. We'll have cab booking modules where we'll be thinking about how will a user be able to book a cab. We will have discounting modules. We will have cancellation module where we will be thinking about how will a user be able to cancel, how we will get a refund, or we can also call it refund module. We will have we will have discounting module, cab booking. We will have couple of integrations, like we will have integrations with maybe a map service to calculate the distance traveled. We will have an integration with payment gateway, and there can be so many things. All I want to say right now is that just present an approach where you can think about multiple things at a time, what all a cab solution will be needed. You can take references from the cab services you use, what are the different features available there. In the discounting module there can be multiple things like new user discount, generic discount, festive only discounts, like something like that. So the more you can think about a optimal solution, the more you can think about different modules, relationships, object, the more your solution will look better. Just present a professional approach towards building a particular application. Of course they're not going to build that application in that interview, but you have to present a professional approach. That is what I want to explain here. Next question was any unique ideas that I brought in my project. Again, this is a freebie question where you can show how you created something very unique in your project. Let's say you implemented a error catching framework. Let's say they were not catching error, or let's say they were not catching errors in flow. You implemented a error catching framework for the flow, which is obviously a unique approach, and then you can explain that. Or let's say you created a trigger framework. Every developer was following their own trigger structure. You implemented a framework, and because of that framework now every trigger is optimized and follows a common structure. So here you have to think about what you did special, or what you did beyond your own deliverables, which helped the organization or which helped your project. Or let's say you implemented something which helped you in testing. You implemented something which helped you run the project, something like that, something very unique, yet that need not to be rocket science, okay, which you can easily explain, could be easily implemented as well. Okay, so this is a freebie question. Present something really good. If you hesitate here, or if you will not present anything, interviewer will get an idea that you are just a person, just a kind of person who just meet the expectation or do the bare minimum work. So present something really good here. Next question was, if I have account object and I have 9 opportunities related to that, so what will I do to update them? Optimize solution you wanted. Of course, you will not be doing 9 DML. So try to make a bulkified code with the help of account ID, get all the related opportunities ID, and then do not do an update inside the loop. Come outside of the loop and do a DML, one single DML to do that. This can also be done via flow. You can give a suggestion. If he is looking to for a trigger solution, write it down. If he is looking just for the solution, you can coin both triggers and flows. But if he is asking you to write trigger, then write trigger first. Okay, he might be looking to check your writing skills rather than your knowledge only. Okay, next question was project based questions, like how do I handle critical bugs in project, how do I make sure that every solution I am giving is best and optimized solution in Salesforce, anything new that you have implemented in Salesforce project. So this question has 3 different parts. One, how do you handle the critical bugs in project? Whenever you get the production bugs in your projects, your team or you have to respond immediately. So if you have anything implemented for the immediate notification, inform about that, maybe pager duty, or maybe a notification mechanism by which you get notified whenever a production bug raises. The immediate step is, if you are able to understand the problem, so try to solve it in, try to replicate it in the full copy, and try to push a fix for that in the production. If you are not able to understand that bug, then you immediately raise a case with Salesforce via chat and get on a call with them, try to identify the issue and then think about how to fix it. Okay, but we need not to waste any time here. You have to notify the affected users, you'll have to notify the business owners that this is the problem we are facing and we are working on it. Notification is very important immediately, because otherwise it will not be counted. All right, so that's how you do it. You have to replicate it in the full copy and then you have to work on fixing it and deploy that fix to production after getting the approval for the deployment. And meanwhile, if you're not able to understand the issue, you raise a case with Salesforce. This was the part one. Part two, how do I make sure that whatever solution I'm giving is the best and optimized solution? Okay, whenever I'm working on a big module or something which requires a lot of thinking, I first I go to design my own solution. Then I discuss that solution with maybe my lead or my architect, and I follow. We as a Salesforce team follow a proper development practices. We follow a proper approach. We have document where everything is documented: what to do, what not to do, how to do the naming, what not to do, what are the bad practices we have to avoid, what are the good things we have to follow, or every Apex class has to follow, and based on that we do this solution. But having said that, every solution we design has to get the approval from our architect or lead. Basically, you'll have to say it in a way that a code, when once a developer writes a code, it doesn't mean that that code will go to production. There is a proper check mechanism available in my org. Whenever we deploy something, it has to go through the peer review as well as the final reviewer, where architect or lead will be reviewing our code. So a code cannot be deployed to a production instance if it has not been properly tested, both functionally, solution wise, and it follows a proper structure. We also have the PMD rules and all whenever we do the deployment. So if a code is not following a proper structure, it will not be allowed to be deployed to the production instance. Give something like that. Anything new that you have implemented in Salesforce project? See, we all go through the release notes in Salesforce. Any latest release notes you found useful, and if you have implemented it on your project, try to say that thing. If it is latest, then it will make maximum impact. If it is an old thing, then that might not make that much impact. So try to see the references of latest release notes, and anything which you have implemented in your project or maybe thinking of using in your project will also work, but latest thing will make most impact. Okay, next question. If a sprint is there and the development got late, how do you handle that? See, whenever it depends. I mean, the answer will vary on the work you are doing. If you are a developer or if you are leading that project, answer will vary. In this case, the user was a developer. So if I'm working on something and development got late, how do I handle that situation? First, I'll have to properly document why this development got late, what are the constituents which played role in this delay. Maybe we did not do the story pointing correctly, maybe we did not anticipated XYZ problem in that particular development, maybe we got some high priority user story and because of that we needed to push this user story. But it has to be documented and there is a proper mechanism by which you communicate this to client. You'll have to tell your project manager and rest of the things will be handled by project manager. But as a developer, you will have to document so that you can justify why do you need more time on this particular user story. If that is justifiable, then that is not a problem. It happens like every second, third sprint, like we might not be able to deliver something, but we'll have to have a proper reason for that. Different between synchronous and asynchronous. The difference is the asynchronous will run in its own thread whenever resources are available. So whenever we are doing something which is not immediately required, or we need not to wait for the result of that to do something else, then we can put that thing asynchronously and let the Apex handle it whenever the resources are available. It is very useful because Salesforce Apex runs in the multi-tenant environment and we have limited resources. How to debug LWC? See, this is also a very interesting question. Most of the time we debug LWC via the console tools we have, and most of the time we are successfully able to do that through the console.log or through the inspector or through the debugging on the console on Chrome. But we can also use just to test our LWC, and we have LWC local server available as well to try that. But if you want to answer this based on how you have done it, then go with what you follow to debug your LWC. Like I most of the time successfully debug my LWC code via the LWC via the Chrome tool. So I just say that I use debugger to test my LWC code because that's where I'm most comfortable with, and that's where I'll have higher chances of being able to answer the cross questions. So these were the questions. All questions were good. They hit you on a different state, and try to check your compatibility also. Do let me know if you have any question on any question on any of these topics, and I'll be more than happy to answer. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you everyone.